Okay, look here. Okay, so yeah, it's right here. We got this thing, right? Little whatever. So this essentially confirms, and it does. Okay, I'll retract the statement. I don't know if it confirms, but it confirms that the Svet are in Marathon. I don't know about the four yet. The four are, but yeah. So this being is called a Svet, and in Marathon 1, they're enslaved by the four, which are Marathon's covenant, right? In Marathon, probably as enemies that you fight. And this will come into play later. I'll show you in a minute. And it's because yeah, this is all the same person right here. It's also in Destiny, which is pretty cool. I like knowing this reference now. I think this is pretty cool armor set. When this first came out, I was like, "What the hell is this thing?" I was like, "What was whatever?" But okay, so yeah, that's cool. What are we going on about, right? So if we go into, I think it's SPHT, S apostrophe PHT. Yeah. So the Svet Kerr is their full whatever. And yeah, so they are basically like these little brainy dudes, right? And then they have like cloaks on, whatever, armor and all that fun stuff. At the end of Marathon 1, so the four invade Marathon, and you as the player fight them off, and basically repel the four from the Marathon ship, and then in the process you free the Svet from enslavement, and they split into like 7 different factions, and then at the end of Marathon, and this will come into play in a minute here, okay? I'm just kind of giving you the lowdown. And this is why, sorry, I'm going on a bunch of different tangents here, but this is why I don't think Marathon is just an extraction shooter. Like, I get that what we saw was very much one-dimensional. This is an extraction shooter. This is our gameplay. This is how the game looks. All right, we got our 4 different classes, and that's great. And awesome, cool. What's going to make it different? And there's something missing. There's definitely something missing, and that I believe.
Yeah.
The something missing is the narrative. Like, imagine Halo comes out with just the multiplayer, and you have to go, and the only way to learn about the story is to go Google stuff, go watch a YouTube video, or have played the original games and know a lot about the source material, you know? Imagine Destiny came out, and Destiny originally was kind of like that. Originally, Destiny's lore was very surface level. Go fight the darkness, you have the light, and you had to really delve into the Grimoire cards and delve into the wiki to really understand what the hell the Vex is, what the hell the Hive is, all that stuff. And it wasn't until they started telling a narrative story with Destiny that it got good, in my opinion. Like, Destiny is good because of the narrative that they've been telling over 10 years. Destiny itself has great gunplay, yes, and Marathon's the same way. The gunplay from a lot of the reviews I've seen are saying, yeah, it's good. You know, it's a Bungie title, great multiplayer. I just, there's something missing here. Anyway, back to the Svet. So the Svet are enslaved by the four, and then at the end of Marathon 1 was Durandal, one of the AIs, goes with them back to their homeworld, and I forget why he went back, but he goes back to the homeworld with the Svet. And let me look up here what actually happens. See Marathon. Yeah, so the four attack Tau Ceti and the UESC Marathon with the intent of slaving the humans. They were defeated by the player and Durandal, who then liberated the Svet, 'on the 4 captured ship. And then in Marathon 2, 17 years later, Durandal and the Free Svet, so Free Svet, which means that there are still Svet enslaved by the Four. Are searching for any leads to the myth of the Svet Kur, which supposedly a clan of Svet that had fled during the previous war between various clans. Because of this, they had escaped the Four for thousands of years and became technologically superior to other Svet with the help of the ancient AI Toth. So there's all this AI stuff too that, again, was not in any of the alpha promotion material. Just saying. But again, that goes into speculation and whatnot.
Have you been like dying to like spill your guts in this?
I mean, I kind of have been spilling my guts, to be honest. Like, I've been doing.
Okay.
I've
just like Charlie Day, and just kind of.
Yeah, basically, bro. Anyway. Listen. So, Durandal is not at Tau Ceti right now. We know that from the lore. We know that this new Marathon game takes place between Marathon and Marathon 2. I know I took you down a rabbit hole, right? But that was just some context, backstory stuff. Okay, right? So basically, the key points to take away from all that is the Svet, the Four, and how they relate. The fact that Durandal is kind of associated with the Svet in some way, right? And us as the player have like this new kind of view of Tau Ceti after the collapse of Marathon, right? And that Durandal's off doing something, right? And that the Four, while they were repelled, were not defeated, right? So then if we go through this trailer, right, and I'll do a breakdown of it. Okay, beginning. That is Marathon. We are in, this could be pre-Marathon 1 right now. What we're looking at could be pre-Marathon 1. So the player in Marathon 1 is on that ship or on Tau Ceti right now. And this is like this is Bungie's jumping point. You know, so this is where that they might go off the rails, right? But like story-wise, this is where they're grounding this game, as in, okay, these are the events of Marathon 1. Right? So that is Tau Ceti showing off the planet, whatever. Kind of giving us the Destiny 2 trailer kind of vibe. And then again, a lot more color and all this stuff going on pre-collapse. Let's turn this down just a bit. It's kind of loud. And then this shot right here is the invasion of the Four. So think of this as like when Reach fell, is what basically this kind of sequence of events is.
Oh, okay.
Also, the Svet are known for terraforming planets. I found it in the wiki. I don't know if this is correlated, or if they're just trying to show that this character, whatever, but something happens where he's like, he runs out of oxygen and he can't breathe on the planet. Right? Okay, so again, more pre-collapse, or not pre, more like during the collapse, this is what's happening. And notice what we get in the next shot. What is that?
Hallway, cloaked alien figure.
That is a Svet.
Okay.
So that is literally the thing that's a Warlock skin in the Destiny game. That's what was originally in the first games, and has like links to the Four, which is this Covenant alien race being present on Tau Ceti. And then we've also seen this thing in the reveal trailer for Marathon, briefly in like an underground area, you know. This, I have no idea what this is. What it looks like is there's some kind of substance or figure or like barrier of some sort, and he walks through it, or he walks into like a weird alien entity and it like kills him, is what it seems like goes on. And then we get the introduction of the runners, which are, basically not cyborgs, but, shells that people inhabit. It's just whatever. And then we get our introduction to the character that we play as, right? I believe this is Durandal. And he's reciting the Ozymandias poem that was a big part of the ARG.
Who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk.
And then I think this part is just to reference the AI, while also showing how there's this whole world out there for us to explore type of vibe. You know what I'm saying?
Whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that
We're finding remnants of the old world, and in doing so, we're going to find secrets.
it's hope to well those passions red which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, lifeless and the heart that fed.
And then again, we get like this segment, I feel like is like, okay, this is what we'll be doing. Like this is game, showing off kind of like a more theatrical, cinematic version of like, okay, how these characters would, loot and fight and do all that random shit, This isn't like too important. This is just showing off gameplay mechanics. This part is to establish that we are reanimating our lifeless corpse multiple times, whatever. It's pretty obvious.
I mean, it feels just like what it is, right? Like $1 trillion. Like $1 trillion.
Sakaguchi Genetics sent a reminder. Your shell repayment is coming up and will be charged against your line of credit.
Yeah, I know.
Also, a lot of Love, Death, Robot influence, I feel like, went into this.
Do you mind if we skip the formalities this time? Got a big contract.
Even this character looks like the character from the one short, The Loop or whatever.
Reading down there, so.
Understood. Let's proceed with your grounding exercise. Are you familiar with this item?
That's my lucky charm. Yeah. It's supposed to be my lucky charm.
Again, showing gameplay mechanics, how the characters work with each other, all that fun shit. Okay, we'll kind of skip through this, but you get the gist.
Can you identify her?
Yeah, that's my mom. That's your.
Actually, we'll keep going.
Consider this. Do you recognize this child?
Who are you? I don't.
Okay, boom, right there. You hear that? Who are you? Okay, now this is a big stretch, and this is like, I don't know, maybe this is me reading in between the lines too much, but I feel like this portion, and the reason this is included is because these are like, I think Bungie wants us to take these quote unquote shells, right? Runners of, whatever, these robot shells, and kind of imprint our personality onto the runner of our choosing. And like the decisions you make and, how the game progresses for you will be, different to some degree on how you interact with the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's not a traditional story told in the traditional way, but there's still story in the game, and it's going to be like, okay, well, we found this secret in sector blah, 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 and now we have this like special item that we kind of covet and we don't want to sell. It's not for sale type of vibe. And there's like, so you know how in Destiny we attach ourselves to the guns?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if we attach ourselves to the items that we get in this game, because of like, special things they do or lore implications or, something like that. But that's a stretch. That's a stretch. That's a really big stretch. But I think baseline, these characters are gonna have they're gonna have like base looks and personalities and stuff, but they're really for you to inhabit and like experience the game, in your own way, if that makes sense. Especially because they're literally asking, "Who are you?" Like, what kind of runner are you gonna be? Is basically what they're saying here, I think.
No.
It's you.
What? Really?
Anyway, that's a stretch. I'm gonna be honest, that's a big stretch, but I think that's what they were going for. And then again, showing off landscapes, backdrops, all that fun stuff, trying to get you hyped for the game. Vistas. I don't know what all these like little symbols mean, and I'm not going to pretend to understand because I don't.
Hey, what's that you're always been into? Worth anything?
I don't know, but I like it. It speaks to me.
Let me listen.
So yeah, so like I was saying earlier, he finds this item and then it's just like he's keeping it when in a game where you're supposed to like sell all this stuff that you find. You know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering if they're going to try to make, and again, this is a big stretch, but I'm wondering if they're going to try and make the game, like you find these things and then some of the things, yeah, they have a high price tag and you sell them, but some of them are like, oh shit, I really like this thing, or this thing always, plays music, or, this has really big lore implications. I want to hang on to this. This is not for sale, which we don't see in the alpha.
You ever wonder what happened to these people?
And right there what you ever wonder what happened to these people? Setting up the narrative to figure out what the fuck happened as the player in the game, by delving into these buildings, by finding paths that lead into secret zones where we need special keys, and we're gonna have to figure out puzzles and Easter eggs and stuff like that.
It's not my business.
And this music is. You'll have a tough time finding a buyer.
Good. It's not for sale. Give it to me.
Also, this is a really pretty cinematic. And then if you're a Ghost in the Shell fan, you'll notice that this is a Ghost in the Shell reference. That flip was a little whatever. I think this is also, Taylor was telling me yesterday that You know, this is a great moment because it shows that they're not robots, they're human beings who have hesitations and curiosity, and you know, we're not just going through this world just shooting everything and, you know, whatever. But you can if you want, you know. Okay, this is just like a fight scene type of vibe. Skip through this. Yeah, her just kind of tying it up. Then we get Marathon is destroyed in the back there. Some more lore stuff.
These words appear.
More Ozymandias.
Ozymandias, king of kings, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Despair. Nothing beside remain. Nothing beside remain. Round the decay of that colossal wreck.
So we have all these like items that at first glance are meaningless, right? And just play music or just recite poems or somebody's lucky charm, right? But what if they're kind of like the websites we found for the ARG? And at first, yeah, it's just this thing that's kind of cool and plays music. But then in that audio transmission, there's a secret code, which you need to figure out to unlock somewhere in the world that leads to story elements or something like that, you know?
Round the decay of that boundless wreck. Boundless.
And then this just showing off more environments. Like, there's a whole world to explore. So, and then we get another whatever. He doesn't know who he is again. Anyway, so I think the skeptics are, you know, they're valid in their skepticism, right? But I think what we saw so far is one facet of the game. I think it's just like, hey, here's our fucking, this is the sandbox that you're working in. We've been shown the sandbox, right? But without being able to really explore that world, and I don't even know, because I know some people have played this, I don't know how much of the narrative they've even developed for this game yet. You know, and they might have all the pieces for the narrative, but they have not developed it. And maybe they did that on purpose to try to keep it under wraps better. I don't know for sure. But I really think that the thing that is missing from the alpha is this narrative. What happened to Tau Ceti 4? How are we going to find out? What gameplay mechanics are we going to, you know, take advantage of to make progress towards unlocking the story? How is Bungie going to go ahead and tell this story? What are the Svet doing on Tau Ceti 4? Are they good? Are they evil? Are they a precursor to something bigger like the 4, aka the Covenant, returning? How does Durandal fit into all this? Because he's, you know, there's remnants of him on Tau Ceti that you can find based on this cinematic. And that's, for me at least, that's the intrigue of this game. Is going into this extraction. I could care less about the extraction shooter part. I'm going to be real. I have no interest in extraction shooters. My interest is how do they tell this story in a PvPvE environment. Because right now, yeah, it very much is, let's go into this map, shoot robots. Because the only enemies are the UESC, which are these, you know, robotic kind of enforcers. But I feel like there's a lot more narrative there. And this is just a jumping off point. So, those are my thoughts, clone.
Yeah, that's quite a dump.
Well, yeah, but I think it's like valid. Like, I think the criticisms are valid. I really like the gameplay, to be honest.